Customer brought in this Intratec made in Miami, Florida. Caliber 22 long rifle, and the model of this one is Sport 22. Serial number on this one is K005723. These are really cool guns. Basic blowback operating system utilizing a standard Ruger 1022 magazine. This is a 25 rounder. These are really neat. A copy of Intratec's mainstay model, the Tech 9, and they also made a Tech 25 and 25 ACP. The original Tech 22 model, manufactured between 1988 and 1994, progressed into the Scorpion, and then the final iteration was the Sport 22, made between 1994 and 2000. So that's what we have here. Customer brought this in originally to have this shroud made for it. He supplied this shroud and originally extended all the way to the end. And the barrels on these pistols are not threaded. I believe it's just knurled. So we had to take the barrel off the action, thread it, and then modify this extension so that when it all comes together, the shroud matches up nicely with the front of the receiver. The second reason the customer brought this pistol into us was because it wasn't reliable. It wasn't functioning properly. And upon disassembling it, what we found was that the firing pin was broken. We contacted Numerous Gun Parts and found they are selling factory original firing pins for these model pistols. If you own one, whether yours is broken or not, I would suggest purchasing one now, because they may not have these for long, and it may be a long time or ever before anybody makes replacement parts for these pistols. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate the disassembly and replacement of that firing pin. First thing you want to do, of course, is remove your magazine and make sure the action is clear. What you're also doing when you pull back on that bolt is you're cocking the hammer to the rear, which is best when you open up this top cover to remove the bolt. Next, you want to push in on this plastic button here until it bottoms out, and then simply lift up on this top cover. Now, with the extension removed, the top cover will open farther, but it's just not necessary. If you pull back on this bolt just a little bit and lift up on it, the bolt assembly comes right out of the action. You need a 3/32 Allen wrench to remove this screw. Turn counterclockwise. When you lift up on the charging handle, be careful not to lose this little spring. This is the firing pin spring. And then, of course, the firing pin just drops right out of that channel. Now, to reinstall it, you want to drop the firing pin in the channel and keep your finger at the rear here, or the firing pin will just drop out the back. Now, if you look at your charging handle, there's a little nub there in the center. You want that nub to sit in front of the spring. So install your spring into the corner of that firing pin, but leave the front end of the spring protruding upward so that you can grab onto it with that little nub. Pull back just slightly so that it'll seat flush on the bolt, and then you put your spring back in. Tighten down on it. Don't tighten down too much, just finger tight. And then to put the bolt assembly back in the action, you want to put the rear in first, and then just pivot it downward. Pull back on the bolt just slightly, get it seated into the breech face, and then just snap it closed. You'll notice there at the end, we had a failure to fire. In fact, it's not really a failure to fire, it was just the end of the magazine. The magazine went dry. And since these guns don't lock to the rear on the last round with this magazine, then you're going to have to either count your rounds, or in the end you're going to get an empty chamber, and then you'll have a dry fire, and you won't know if it's a failure to detonate until you open up the chamber and look to see if your magazine's empty or not. Regardless of that issue, be rest assured that you're not hurting your gun. A lot of people will tell you not to dry fire 22s, and the reason is because it's a rim fire. Your firing pin is striking the rim of the cartridge, which is the rim of the chamber if there's no cartridge. Well, a properly built 22, or rather a 22 built with dry firing in mind, won't do this, and it won't damage your chamber. So be rest assured that when you're shooting this gun at the range, if you happen to dry fire it once or twice, it's not a big deal. I just wouldn't be dry firing it for no reason. There's really no reason to dry fire the gun. Just know that you're not damaging it if it happens every once in a while.